Jesse the Body Ventura. Ever heard of him?
I've heard of him, yes.
Yeah. I saw a video recently, and he was talking about. I don't know if he said this recently, but because he looked actually younger in the video, but
Okay.
he goes on a thing about how there should not be billionaires. And I love Jesse. I don't agree with everything he says, but he has this way of just because of the way he looks, the way he talks.
Wrestler's got great delivery.
He's excellent charisma.
Yeah.
And he just has a way, no matter what he's saying, if I said what he was saying, because of the way I talk and act sometimes, I look like some sort of lefty elitist, right? And I recognize that. But when he could say the exact same thing, and because of his like North Midwestern, like Minnesota, dialect, and just the way he looks, and he's just
body,
man.
Bro.
He's the man. He's a prototype of just like this man's man.
Yeah.
Ain't got time to bleed, So he could say the exact same thing and come off super normal guy, right? And I guess I could, might as well bring it up and just show you what.
Yeah, I'm curious. I haven't heard about this.
There should not be one billionaire in America. None. And I'll tell you why. Because there is nobody that works hard enough to earn $1 billion. And my argument is this. The 2 jobs I did in my life that were physically the most demanding and mentally the most difficult that I ever did paid me the least amount of money. One was going through buds, and I challenge any billionaire to put up with 6 weeks of that shit at $62 every 2 weeks, And the second was right before I went in the Navy. I had a job with the Minnesota Highway Department, couple bucks above minimum wage. I worked for the bridge crew, and you know what my job was? I worked a 4-day work week, 10 hours a day, so I could have Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the weekend. You're 18, of course you're going to do that. But I worked 40 hours in 4 days on the bridge crew, and guess what I did? Ran the 80-pound jackhammer. I challenge any billionaire to run the jackhammer for 40 hours 1 week and tell me he works harder than that. No, he doesn't. That's why I believe there should not be a billionaire in the world.
Okay, I love that.
It's great. It sounds great.
Yeah.
It's like it just comes off perfect. The tone, the cadence, everything just comes off perfect, and it resonates.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I don't agree. Now before you go on your thing, I just want to put out there that I don't 100% agree with Jesse.
That there should be no billionaires?
Correct. Okay, now I'd say what you're going to say.
I mean, to a degree, I do think in a fair and responsible world, there's no need for billionaires. Should there not be? I don't know. Is there? Does your greed necessitate $1 billion? It's with so many problems in the world, and money being at the center of most of them for a lot of people. I agree to a degree with the sentiment. Now, how do you implement the non-billionaire rule? I don't fucking know, but I do think it's a fascinating point that he makes in terms of just the hardest jobs I've ever had were those jobs that sucked the most, that paid the least, and you looked at it with COVID, and the jobs that were deemed essential were not high-paying jobs, you know.
You're out there risking your health, and
it's a funny thing. And there was this thing that happened this week. There was 2 different CEO videos that were leaked. Did you see those?
I saw one in which the CEO was berating her people because they were not getting a bonus, and she was, and they were like, "Well, we don't feel motivated to work." And she was like
"Get out of Pity City."
Yeah.
Her name's something Amy. It's not Amy
it's
Adams.
Like Alyssa or something.
Yeah, Alyssa. Yeah.
I'll put in the information.
Either way, these CEOs are so disconnected from reality of like what their workers want, need, or like are. There was another one from Utah, and he ran like a tech company. He had some really bad hot takes. One was basically like he tried to like he kept tiptoeing up to this idea of like, if you're a mom and you're a full-time employee, I'm not saying you can't be a good full-time employee and be a good mom, and like I'm not saying that,
Right.
but then he kind of came back and was like, but I'm kind of saying that.
Clearly, if you're spending 8 hours here, you're not spending 8 hours raising your kid.
Yeah, it was super disconnected, and I think there's a lot of things happening in the CEO world around trying to get people back into the office, because also like them being on Zoom calls and people recording them saying the despicable shit they used to just get to say in their town halls to their employees, where no employee can openly challenge you, you know. So the only the echo chambers these CEOs live in is other CEOs, because they go around having these fucking circle jerks for each other and talking about how great and like their profit margin and this, that, and the other. And meanwhile, this bitch has the audacity to lecture her employees about not getting a bonus, and meanwhile she was getting like 3.3 million in her stock share, whatever.
Yeah,
and
I think
stock
she made
share,
like 6 million total.
yeah, I think what I remember, her salary was something like 1.1 million already, and then she's getting like 3.3 in stock share incentives,
along those lines, yeah.
and then some other stuff. But like everyone else is not getting a bonus, and so I get it. Like you as a CEO are incentivized through the stock doing better, but like the disconnect for me, I guess, is where you are in life in your silver tower and like lecturing these people about how to like make you more money, when you're literally like not willing to pay just bonuses, and you're getting a 3.3 million. And I get it, it's stock based, so it's different, but also like give your employees stocks, like motivate them in that way.
Well, even with it being stock based, the dividends you get from the stocks is, okay, this is how much money is left over after paying employee salaries and bonuses.
Yeah.
So the idea is that her bonus was, I think it was, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 million. Okay.
I think it was, if I remember, it was 3.3 or 3.4.
They had the option to earmark that as an expense for the employees, or just take it for themselves.
Yeah.
She took it for herself. Now, that's one thing, but the sinister part is, if you're a person that makes $1 million, I don't know how long she's been the CEO at this place, but I'm sure this isn't her first year cashing $1 million check.
Yeah, it's high-end furniture too. That's where she works.
Okay, which is okay, yeah. So, if this is you have money in the bank, right? Your employee, they need this money, not just because they want to buy a new Benz or add another wing to their mansion. No, they need it to like pay for food, pay their bills, fix the car they have. You know, it's like, listen, is it possible you get the 50-foot yacht instead of the 55 one this year, or just wait an extra year? Like, can you do that for your fellow human? Is that so hard to ask?
It's also just, I don't know, the wealth inequality between CEO and employee has just gotten so ridiculous, and just the need for like stockholders to have a more profit this year than last year. Like, at what point is just like having a sustainable business like good enough, and then like giving a better quality of life for your employees to incentivize them to be better employees, to make sure your business, you know, continues into the future, you know? Like, instead of you and your fucking rich asshole friends getting more rich, you know? Like, you hear, like, I've watched stories on, like, you know, I just watched something, it's a mochi shop here in Little Tokyo. It's lasted 100 years, and it's in the family.
Nice.
And the way they talk about their business is so romantic and so beautiful, and like the son is like, I don't know if he's stoked, but he understands the sense of like responsibility and how important it is for him to carry on this tradition of them making this mochi like here in the way that their ancestors did in Japan, and also like the way his family has done for the last 100 years. And they run a successful enough business that they get to be like, that they get to continue this tradition.
Yeah.
Which is like a beautiful thing, you know? But corporations and these CEOs who want to fucking lecture their employees, who literally have no incentive to work harder than whatever it is that you're paying them, and you're not going to offer them a part of your stock option, like, and you're going to lecture them. It's like, yeah, fuck you. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like, this is not how, like, these bad managers who think they're like so entitled to their employees' times, their employees' emotional investments, their employees' like just wanton desire to make their company better, when they're literally they're incentivizing the bare minimum. Their incentive is to not be homeless.
Right.
That's why they're there.
Exactly.
Because they have to be there so they don't lose their fucking job, and they can fucking pay for their, but they don't even have the prospect of owning a house.
Right.
So like, what do you want from these people?
Yeah, I only have a few hours of your time. I want the rest of it. You're not an employee. You're an almost. I mean, you're an asset, but almost a liability. You're a cog
an
in this
indentured
wheel.
servant.
Yeah, like I almost have to put up with you.
Yeah. No, and it was the guy from Utah. He used an anecdotal fucking like thing in his whole buildup about one employee who was so dedicated that he had to sell the family dog. And it was like, wait, is that your measuring stick for like what you want from your employees?
Yeah, how dedicated are you?
Yeah, like, look, and then he went on this thing about talking about how dogs are, he's an advocate for dogs being treated as humans. It was so weird. You should watch that clip.
Okay.
I was watching on the Young Turks, and I only got the cliff notes, but it was just like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? But they're just the most entitled, like, rude people. They literally operate on different rules. Like, based on, like, some of the HR conversations she has and has had with, like, CEO types, their expectations are so fucking stupid.
I mean, we've heard straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Some of those conversations.
And how they expect employees to be grateful and, like, all this shit. And it's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, fuck all of you.
Like, they're a gross set. But to come back to the Jesse thing, because we should probably wrap up in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So everything obviously I agree with everything he was saying, if not 100%, at least in the spirit, which is that the idea that working the 40-pound hammer or 80-pound hammer or jackhammer and sitting up in your ivory tower, deciding who to lay off so you can meet your bottom line quota of growth that you're trying to do for
stressful.
It's like the way we equate value is so, at this point, it's amorphous. Who does the CEO create value? Because the CEO of McDonald's decided to roll out the Szechuan sauce one more year. Is that the high level thinking
Somebody
they're
put
doing?
together a pretty sweet deck that like convinced everybody up top that they did a really good job.
So
that's kind of how it works.
They really they really think highly of themselves, that they're just so integral to the part and to the success of this company that they have to be paid this amount. Now, here's the thing. All right, here's my dissent from Jesse. I agree that it's wrong to hoard billions of dollars.
Right.
Okay? But I think that's different from having and earning. See, my thing is, if you're a person who has, I think you should be able to have $1 billion in liquid cash. So not counting your assets or, your company, your housing, or your real estate,
all your investments and whatnot.
Not counting that stuff.
Okay.
You can have $1 billion in liquid cash. Okay. Anything other than that, I think, should be taxed 100%, unless you are planning to use that money to do something. So let's say you're Tim Apple. Tim Cook of Apple.
Yeah. Steve Jobs from the grave.
Yeah, or maybe because he's a corporation, maybe this doesn't quite work one to one. But let's
Okay,
just say
let's
you
see where
are
you're going.
a person, you're a company, you want to build this grand facility for your company, and this facility is a $100 billion facility.
Okay.
Right. I think if you earmark, and you basically have to get, I won't say permission, but effectively like, hey, this is what's going to happen. We're making all this money. We're going to build a new facility. It's going to cost $100 billion. I need to save this money up, and that's what we're going to do. I think you should be allowed to collect that money under the understanding that you're not just going to sit on it. You're going to spend it, which thereby puts that money back into the economy. So you have to circulate this money, and I'm sure I'll get into this in later videos where I'm talking about how economies actually work. But the problem with these billionaires is that they sit on all this cash,
right?
And it essentially locks down this money that could be gone to actually create jobs. If you're building a facility, that's construction jobs, plumbing jobs, electrician jobs, and then you're hiring people up to fill these areas.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Okay, like I'm following you, but at the same time, like there's a few points that I think, I mean, we would get roasted if we had an audience about like just the take in general, but like what you're describing is almost trickle down economics in a way.
Well, in a way, in the sense that.
But that's like Billionaires' argument. It's like that's what they do, you know. But you're saying like no, they actually hoard. But the other thing is like when you assess a billionaire's wealth, it's based on not only their liquid cash, but all of their investments. Like Donald Trump gets to claim he's worth way more just by his name being worth however much he says it's worth. And then somebody else says like, it's maybe worth this much. And then they kind of meet in the middle. They have like an audit of like that value. So like, yeah, like the idea that somebody has enough wealth to, you know, generate that is great, but it's also like you have to be somewhat of a visionary to do that properly, and the idea of investing in a company is different than investing as an entrepreneur in somebody else's vision. So if you're the visionary who's, you know, opening factories and doing this, like you better know what the fuck you're making, because otherwise you're just spending a bunch of money to like give people temporary construction jobs or whatever.
All jobs are temporary.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, if you have that much money, you're not going to invest $100 billion just willy-nilly, you know, because you have to think about, like, is there a time limit? Do you have 5 years to spend? I just reached $1 billion. Like, you better spend it on something to get it back into the economy. And, like, maybe that works. I don't fucking know, but there should be some idea in terms of like how to do that outside of like taxing, and I've also thought about like taxing and taxes is such a stupid like antiquated way that we do things, because it's like legitimately say like the percentage of taxes, and this is how voting works but not really, is like okay, we're taking this much money and we're gonna spend it however the fuck we want. You know, it's like, well, no, why can't I just put on my taxes? Like, I want 100% of my taxes to go towards, you know, fixing the fucking roads.
Right.
You know, like, I wish there was a way to designate where your fucking money goes. That way, everyone who has an argument of like, oh, I don't want to pay for these fucking poor people, I'd be like, I want 100% of my fucking taxes to go towards like food insecure children. You know, like, I wish you could just do that. Yeah, but instead we have these democratically elected individuals who are going to make up, you know, where that shit goes. But wouldn't it be a lot better? And with the tax system already as complicated as it is, why couldn't we just pick what bin we want our fucking taxes to go to? You know, that would be so much more efficient.
I agree with that. There is
I came like kind of zigzagged and made my own point about like money,
that's good.
but
yeah, whatever. You gotta let it flow. But there is a reasonable counter argument to that. Even though I agree we should, but there's a reason for that. I won't get into that.
Is it reasonable?
It's yes. But I do want to say real fast about the.
Is it democracy?
No, it's just that, you know, it's difficult to. The problem is corruption, right?
Oh shit.
give you the
America's
clip
corrupt.
from the Sonic. Yeah. So it's like it's corruption, but also it's difficult. It's difficult to plan a country if you don't know exactly how. Like if you can't manage the money.
Okay, but
It-
like,
but it's they're mismanaging it.
Right.
That's the problem. And they're doing it not because they're dumb, but because they're corrupt.
when the Pentagon failed their own audit,
Right.
and that's where most of our money goes,
Right.
fuck that. So I don't care. Like, give us 10 to 20 bins, and then give us more like things, and then like do a fucking pre-audit for where people want their fucking money to go.
Yeah.
It's not that fucking hard. As much as you're
It's not.
making an argument for it, like, I don't care. Like, let Americans decide where their tax dollars go.
Sure.
You know,
And
instead of them
I agree.
spending-
I agree. I'm just saying, like, the problem is, what if 100% of Americans say we don't want any of our money going to the military?
That
Like,
would never happen.
I know it wouldn't, but
There are so
in
many
a
people rock
situation,
hard for taxes for the military.
Sure, but in a situation where that's possible, like, what do you? Because it is possible. Maybe not 100%, but maybe enough to not have a functional military.
Okay, then still here, 20% of it's going to the military.
Just
Divvy
basically.
out the rest of it. I don't care. There's options here. This is the thing.
Sure.
It's like right now we don't have options, and this is something I've been thinking about this whole time, and it's not a new idea. But why shouldn't every fucking person in Congress and in the Senate have to wear fucking badges by the people they are bought by, like NASCAR?
Right,
If you've
right.
accepted money, you get a big old NASCAR fucking coat that you wear in the Senate, and you fucking like rock that shit,
Yeah.
and you own it. Do that. Those two things alone fix a lot of problems in America.
They're not going to do that because of corruption.
Oh, what? You keep throwing me, man. I didn't know America was corrupt.
It's corrupt. They're not going to do that. But let me go back to something you said earlier, because you said my earlier idea was trickle down economics, and it is structurally, but the difference, and this is the main part, which is why trickle down economics, in theory works. Trickle in
practice.
Let's say trickle up at first.
You said trickle down.
Okay, trickle down works, so does trickle up in theory. In practice, only trickle up works.
Right.
The reason why in practice trickle down doesn't work is because there's nothing forcing them to spend their money. If there was something forcing them to spend money, it would work. Which is the main difference in my idea, is that you would force them to build. It doesn't matter if we don't have, like, we need houses.
Yeah.
Build houses. Fuck. If they're empty or haven't been sold,
this shit.
build them. We'll figure out a way to get people in there, all right?
We'll put some asses in there.
Right.
Seats.
So that's the main difference. Is like
Yeah.
you get these people, they can't hoard this money. They have to actually actively keep it moving. Obviously, there's ways to nuance, ways to, like, okay, well, how do we make sure they get enough time to do it, and what's a fair way to do it? But it has to be done.
Right. No, I mean, I didn't mean to blow it up and just like,
No,
like,
it gives me an opportunity to explain. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, in theory, like, trickle down economics could work, but also that name is like, that's bad branding. It's gonna trickle down. Don't worry. It's like, I'm up here at the top and I'm sprinkling.
Yeah.
I'm putting sprinkles, and you at the bottom, who are like 100 fucking stories below, you'll get some of those.
Yeah.
It's gonna trickle.
Coming.
It's
good.
trickling.
It's getting down there, man.
Be a fucking thunderstorm, man. Thunderstorm economics, man. Make your fucking billions rain.
Dude, now if you all have money, how the fuck am I supposed to get cheap labor?
That's a good point. Exploit the masses. It's such a bummer sometimes, just thinking about how many, like, I don't know, well-intentioned people, like, that this country had in its history, and like wanted, like, to make a better future for for people, have, like, had ideas and systems exploited and, like, taken advantage of, and now it's a sad state of affairs. And it's like, I saw a brief argument on Twitter about just, like, the idea of, like, oh, population, and, like, we need to make kids, and it's like, what is that?
I love these people.
That song, that Lady Gaga, we met in a hopeless place. We fell in love in a hopeless place, or something like
How does
that.
go?
I fell in love in a hopeless place, or something like that.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
I think of America in that tune, like, You want me to fucking make babies in this hopeless place? Oh man, so it's just gonna create a kid that I'm gonna love and be like, good luck, you fucked.
Sorry, like, don't have the financial ways to give you everything you need and deserve.
I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna take everything I have, and I'm not gonna have a lot.